grinded cat half out.
Thrice and once the hedge pig whined.
Harpier cries, 'tis time, 'tis time.
Round about the cauldron go, in the poisoned entrails throw. Toad that under a cold stone, days and nights have 31, salted venom, sleeping draught. Boiled thou first i' the charmed pot.
Double, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn and cauldron bubble, fillet of fenny snake. In the cauldron boil and bake, eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog, add a fork and blind worm sting, lizard's leg and owlet's wing. For a charm of powerful trouble, let the hell broth boil and bubble. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn and cauldron bubble.
Scale of dragon, tooth of wolf, witch's mummy, moor and gulf, of the ravened sea salt shark, root of hemlock, dig the dark, liver of blaspheming Jew, gall of goat and slips of yew, silvered in the moon's eclipse, nose of Turk and Tartar's lips, finger of a birth-strangled babe, ditch delivered by a drab, make the gruel thick and slab, add thereto a tiger's children, for the ingredients of our cauldron.
Double, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn and cauldron bubble. Cool it with a baboon's blood, for the charm is firm and good. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Welcome, everybody, to Poetika 94, the Halloween Extravaganza! Thank you, Destiny. What a lovely bunch of horrible monsters you all are! Thank you for being here this evening. We're going to start proceedings off with a poem from the...
It's not a poem!
It's not a poem!
It's flash fiction.
It's flash fiction, apparently.
I think it is.
Turn up a bit, Will, apparently. This is flash fiction.
Okay. Skelly Bones slips skipping through the neon night. She's tripping over the litter bugs, leftovers that clutter the night and street. Her eyes glassy, reflecting the light, and her lashes are wet from the 3 a.m. mist. Feet numb with the chill of a morning not yet started. There is still time to wait before her extremities can kick back into life. But there is the thrill in the moving through the secret hours when the streets are on, but the lives are gone, warm in their stacks of shelved homes and blanketed beds. Patterns shimmer through the high-rise windows, and the shop fronts stare out of her mirrored self, and the signs slice out shadows with their fluorescence. Her hand is yellow and her face is green, and one bar of her rib cage is washed with a patch of pink. The moon is new, but the city shines and quiet in its presence. Skelly Bones goes tiptoeing through the empty world, exploring the left-behind moments to see from the edge. Skelly Bones goes searching for the souls that missed their slumber, but lost their day, and slinking through the cold, she hunts for the wisps of the gone folk. Skelly Bones goes looking for hands to hold, to guide the ghosts to her transparent home. In the secret hours of the city, Skelly Bones finds the phantoms on their first night into her world. I'm trying something new, it's not that good. Yeah, I know, I keep forgetting that when I post. Sorry. Actually, I remember who was first up. I was going to bring James, aka Shaq. Could this fine gentleman step his way to the stage? Careful, he might need a little assistance. He's very elderly. Many, many hundreds of years, I do believe.
Oh, I'm a bit taller than this, isn't it?
But you are allowed to.
Right. There should we go. So, Sarin, is it? Yes, Sarin, Summer's End. Ghouls, ghosts and beasties. Pumpkin slicing, trick-or-treating, dressing up, sweets for eating. Origins forgotten. In days gone by, harvest hearth fires, burning effigies and bonfires, brought into the house to keep the spirits out and keep us all warm. As the waning crescent moon strains through the clouds on this All Hallows Eve, the veil between the worlds thins, and our connection with those who have passed becomes strong again. During this time, the focus was on clearing out the old and embracing the new. It's a time to reflect on the passage of time and our journey through. A time to visit with and honour our loved ones, those who have come and gone. Talk about those who have passed with a fondness, a smile and a raised glass. For tonight, they may talk back.
June, would you be happy to come up, please, and regale us with some of your poetry?
Right, okay. Well, on this ghoulish night when everybody looks so appropriately dressed, I'm afraid my pieces aren't going to be quite, but they will be topical. I'll start with a haiku. On the inky black sea, the silver white moon spills slivers of light. That's my haiku. I do have another slightly longer one. Waiting for the green flash, we watch the sun sink, a yellow gold orb on a streaked blue and pink sky over a turquoise sea. That's the end of that one. And a third even longer one. Great orange ball of sun dips below the smooth, uninterrupted ocean horizon. A little blaze of green appears for a split second, as if squeezed from between the last vision of the setting sun and the sea. The conch shell's deep, hoarse note comes from the sailors, the line of sailing boats, as the sailors blow them in celebration of the green flag. Topical in the sense that it's about climate, but it was written a long time ago in another continent when I was much younger. It's called Johannesburg. This is a savage city built on greed and the persistence of man. He has raped the earth for its gold, and now it lies dying. And he will go on raping it for his ill-gotten brood until it is dead. This building crushed trees and grass and flowers, and now when the rain falls to fill the fertile earth, it dies a cruel death instead, battered against the pavement. Where I sit, a few hundred feet in the air, enclosed in a reinforced concrete and glass cage, there, down there, below me, once stood a timid diker, or prowled a maned king. A giraffe might once have waved its graceful head along those streets, but now they are gone, all gone and dead, or kept in cages where they rot from boredom. The sky opens and thunders down its protest, but to no avail the old gods roar, forgotten and disbelieved. When will we hear their message? Realize their revenge. We have soiled and ravaged and mocked the earthly paradise, and the life to come promised so long ago will leave us, rejected. We are not fit. We set ourselves as gods who cannot die, We are not gods. We have not the width or depth or wisdom of true gods. We are but scholars in the universe. We seek to know, and in our manner of seeking, destroy.
Thank you so much. That was lovely. Thank you. And I did count. I was doing the syllable check with my hand when you did your haikus. It's a habit from a haiku writer. Next up, oh, there you are, hiding behind the post, trying to look dodgy. Yes, you. Yes, Mike. Could you come up, please? He was trying to hide.
Right, without the aid of a safety net, I shall do a rendition of a song called Street Spirit
Yes.
by Radiohead.
Wonderful.
I shall try.
Get in the mic, Mike.
When my voice becomes loud, this mic will become right. Rows of houses are bearing down on me. I can feel their blue hands touching me. All these things into position, all these things will one day swallow whole and fade out again, fade out again. This machine will not communicate all the strain I am under. Be a world child, form a circle before we all go under and fade out again, fade out again. Cracked eggs, dead birds scream as they fight for life. I can feel death and feel its beady eyes. All these things into position, all these things will one day swallow whole. So fade out again, fade out again. Immerse your souls in love, immerse your souls in love. Thank you.
Mike, that was avant-garde. Some people will get the reference.
Wasn't very Halloween, though.
I thought it was. Also, I listened to that this morning, so it's great how things happen like that. Awesome. Next up, Lucas, would you be happy to come up?
Yeah, come up.
Come up then, Lucas.
Awesome. All right. Can I do three poems?
Two for now.
Two for now. Sweet. Sure thing. I'm just gonna open them up. All right. I wrote this one originally as a song. It's called Adam's Ale. We weathered like a stone in a storm porous, seeking solace in the eye of Horus, gormless precipitation thesaurus, calling like the dawn chorus, dancing to the formless vibration. Creation warms us, but creation warns us, nation borders, pervasions haunt us. Perverse games for the warlord's slaughter, odds to turn a stomach make a Hun nauseous. Thoughtless, no they thought less, of the lives lost and the cost on their quarters. Now their daughters receive decorums, while their daughters lie in street quartered. Adam's ale minerals and black gold, ammunition generals and stacked skulls. Adam's ale minerals and black gold, ammunition generals and stacked skulls. We weathered like a ruin in a desert standing, hearts in hand and passions mixed with survival's demand, sowing seeds as the carrion flies over lands barren, supersonic vultures scavenge, eye scanning horizons to cause damage. Bombing schools sets off a migratory pattern. Swimming upstream for the fresh water, salmon. They catch them in the channel in a boat with a cannon and run them through the press and make spam for the gammon. Demented sun with its boogeymen gannons. The putrid ooze spews out the mouth of Steve Bannon's. Adam's ale minerals and black gold. Ammunition generals and stacked skulls. Adam's ale minerals and black gold. Ammunition generals and stacked skulls. And my phone doesn't want to find the one I just said. Here we go. I wrote this one as a rap. I'd completely forgotten it was a Halloween thing and I hadn't been preparing my poems, so I've just been manically getting them together. But I wrote this one as a rap and it's got a bit of a Halloween theme, so I'm going to take it off. This one's called Cthulhu Dawn. I get a bit nonsensical, slipping on through like a tentacle. Sensible, Cthulhu Dawn, I'm feeling kinda eldritch. Demons chat shit, gonna give them hell, bitch. Blast them with blows of Lovecraftian flows. Supernatural... let me start again. I get a bit nonsensical, slipping on through like a tentacle. Sensual, Cthulhu Dawn, I'm feeling kinda eldritch. Demons chat shit, gonna give them hell, bitch. Blast them with blows of Lovecraftian flows. Apparitions expose supernatural prose. But these thoughts flicker like a candle in a light breeze, and my mind crackles like thunder and lightning. Power that's raw, it's frightening. My phone is endlessly scrolling, which doesn't make this easier. Power that's raw, it's frightening. Perilous or blinding. Pain blocks the path, but I can't just quit. Square pegs in round holes, man, I just don't fit. A mad itch to make music, I'ma run with it. Make this beat a vessel to express this shit. I said, yo, something's up with my anatomy. I'm gradually decaying, wondering what the fuck is happening. Actually, I'm praying that the cause will unravel, and actually, who cares, man, you're just babbling. Because when the pain came calling, I was poorly prepared. When they couldn't spot the source, it was all in my head. With no forthcoming reports, your Baudelaire was scared, because past members of his court already fought to the death. I'm distorted by stress, distraught and a mess. Forced to assess a heavy weight on my chest. I'm on a battlefield with no bulletproof vest, but my zest will attest. Despite wounds in my breast, it's like a clash of steel. Can I survive the test? Because I ain't getting nowhere on the NHS. I just want to be fine. But the pain always seems to play tricks on the mind, and with the ticking of time I start feeling resigned. I got mad life skills, but I keep falling behind. But I'ma keep crawling. I ain't balling, I'm balling. Rise above the pain to my calling, I'm all in. Putting all my chips on the table. Poetry forging reality from fable, I am able. Even when I am not, I'ma keep rocking stages, cause it's all that I've got. Adrenaline numbs the pain, so I don't have to stop. And as a daily life crutch, I lean hard on the pot. It's just the way that it goes, and as the cycle starts to deepen, I descend into prose. It's the only way that I know, cause the speaker's the choke. I don't know what to do, man, it's peak, it's a joke. Will I watch all my dreams as they go up in smoke? Nope. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was great. That was really great. Destiny, please come up to the stage.
So it's about the time where the veil is thin and, yeah, remembering your loved ones. I am grieving a loss that I never had, grieving a past that was never shared, grieving the days that feel so bare. The good times, the bad times, the times that never were, the times that I so long to be. I just wish that time didn't have to be borrowed, because I would never want to give it back or let it go. These moments are the ones I truly wish so. Time is the only thing I keep wishing for. I only wish and hope that I can ask for more. Thank you very much. And this one, just a bit of warning, has a few swears in it. And it's about someone You are the mega bitch who calls herself a witch, giving the rest of us a bad name. living so maliciously in this mortal plane. Asleep in the mundane, little hope you'll ever change, heading down lower life form lane. Only got yourself to blame, so caught up in the webs of your own mind frame. I refuse to participate in this manipulative game, biting your tail like a dog with mange. The way you act is so obscure and strange. All absorbed in fictitious intent, making up lies at others' expense. I think we're owed some recompense. Little reason as of why there is no one coming to your defence. I think you need exorcism, stuck in a self-constructed mental prison, only harming yourself with this malicious vision. One-way track to a fatal collision. Your brain needs a medical incision. I think you need a lobotomy, because your logic just does not make sense to me. You should be restrained because you are mentally deranged and clinically insane. What the fuck? Do you even have a brain? You are the villain of this horror story. Hate will never equal glory. Trapped in a cycle of poor me. If your mind was a garden, it would be thorny. I will never curse you. My time and energy does not deserve you. Heard the rules of three? Doesn't concern you. Karma is the force that I do turn to. Always in search of your next trip of power, no wonder your body has turned so sour. Anything good you will try to devour. You will cower as the bricks start to crumble of your feeble control tower. Speaking these words, I take back my power. Thank you for your indignity, because it reminds me of the person that I will never be.
And now, listen and devote. You can introduce yourself.
I can introduce you. You know the nutter. What is your story?
There's a step there.
The beat's really big. Anybody know any jokes? I won't be long. No, fuck off. Right. That was professional, wasn't it? It's these fucking gloves. You can't do anything with costume on, can you? I can't see, I can't breathe, and I can't touch anything properly. Okay.
Thank you. Oh, bless you, love.
I've got something.
Just a little bit something there, darling. Maybe you can see to it for me later, yeah? For those of you who don't know, this evening we have some special guests in the building. They are going to be doing 2 talks, one in the first half, one in the second half. If you're not aware of their presence, they are over in the corner there. They're called Timezone Tours. They are historians, ghost tellers, and are the most amazing, bloody people to listen to. So please stick around. But first of all, I'm going to write a poem. I've written it, but I'm going to try and read it. Easy access. Devil on your shoulder, I'm your answer. Your Jiminy Cricket, the chamomile after your thicket forest adventure. And yes, you are the fairest in the land. See, I understand your needs. Tune into what feeds you. I'm emphatic beyond belief. There isn't an emotion beneath me that I can't help you with. So, when you're feeling down and sad, and aren't wearing a smile but instead of frown, you can always call on me. Reliability is my logo. I've been very rude so far, having introduced myself. My name is Nick, but you can call me Nicky. I think a sense of familiarity goes a long way in business, don't you? I'm from hellonearth.com, a wheeler strategy company, and I picked up on your social media statuses this week. They drew my attention to the algorithm. You are very prevalent on Instagram, aren't you? I see you like your food, fillers, and drinking quite a lot. Personally, I enjoy holidaying in Georgia. The weather is always so very clement there, and there are some amazing deals to be had in that county. Anyway, I read your intention last night, and I felt I needed to reach out to you. Because there really is, in all honesty, nothing you can do without my help. I'm free, cheap and easy. Quick ad there, slipped out, I digress. The thing is, Sophie, he isn't going to come back to you. You've been played big time, sister. In fact, I've run a background check on him, and on your behalf, obviously. And unfortunately, the reality is he's been cheating on you all the way through. I'm afraid I will have to reiterate your suspicions and wholeheartedly agree with your decisions, because if that was me, I'd feel like ending it all too. Heartbreak is a killer, isn't it? So, this is where I can help you. It's my forte. Unfortunately, my reputation precedes me, so don't read my online reviews. I'm here for you now, today's news. So here is what I'm proposing. Your soul. You do have one, right? I'm just joking. Becomes mine at midnight, at the exact same day you die. You don't need to ask the wherewithals or the why. I'm going to take care of everything for you. Trust me. It's what I do. I will ruin his life. And amongst other things, I will set fire to his car and kidnap his cat because I'm like that. He will never forget you, hon. Your legacy and pain will remain as an ongoing torture. So with this in mind, I have emailed you a contract. It has a tick box as an attachment. Just click the tick, agree to the terms and conditions, then you and I are sorted. All the agony is aborted. Painless, really. Easy, actually. This is a limited offer and will expire within 24 hours, so please be prompt. Yours sincerely, your new friend, Nick. Thank you.
Well, that was suitably terrifying. Thank you. Right, next up, I would like to introduce Andrea. We spoke to us last time, so welcome back. Thank you for coming back.
Hello everybody, happy Halloween, or happy Samhain, the pagan festival. So this is just very, very simple. Is there spider fright night on Halloween night? Or is it the ghouls who scare the most simplest fools, ghostly apparitions and spooky appreciations, monsters and more, freaks and fairies, characters who are complete mysteries with contorted macabre faces that are flawed? Street to street and house to house, door to door, pumpkins glowing, so you know to knock, as this house has a sweet store. Decorated house fronts, pumpkins lit up, cobwebs and bats, warlocks and witches and wiry black cats. Communities thrive with Halloween Fright Night. The excitement is alive. Carved pumpkin competitions, not just in schools, oh, and online. Yes, it is blighted by consumerism and has overwhelmed religion, but hey, it's for family fun memories, it's spooky fun time. It's not just for children, it's even more. For those who think they are grown up, to wear glamour and glitz galore. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming back and giving us more great poetry. Lovely, lovely. Next up, can I bring Sarah with a lovely tinsley hat there? Halloween mixed with a bit of Christmas.
Hello, and I've been wondering, why do I tell myself horror stories? It's the grip of fear I dread when I'm lying in my bed, when in the day nothing seems so bad. Halloween's the Day of the Dead, and images fill my head. So Halloween's the Day of the Dead, and images fill my head of watched horror movies I wish I never had. My body weighs like lead, like I'm chained to this bed, ready to be savaged by a monster so bad. I'm sure you've heard it said that souls like me get fed to ghouls and witches who've arisen quite mad. Or was it just something I read? Grimm's fairy tales before bed, filling my mind with thoughts I never had. So what fills your head? As it's easy to get led, Halloween horror stories get exaggerated just a tad. So to our own stories we are wed, and it's fear-based thinking we should dread. And as in reality, each new day ain't so bad. Fear thoughts only hang by a thread. So cut the cords when going to bed, to wake up fresh from the best sleep you've ever had.
Where you lost your hat. That was really clever. Next up, could Mr. Edwin Hopper come up to the stage, please?
Right, it's just the two then. This is called the Slaughter Stone. There was a girl told the world online how she yearned for this special one. In reply came a text: this spell is fine if you've courage to make it done. If your immortal soul screams in lust for this fine living boy in your bed, my anonymous spell you'll have to trust. Wash the Stonehenge Slaughter Stone red. That night Stonehenge was quiet as the grave. They moved the old road, no cars there now. No light on the stones, but the girl was brave and danced with all life would allow. The boy in London had a feeling within, no reason, something drew him astray. In Dad's classic Jag, he went for a spin down England to Old Harrow Way. The A303 was the Old Harrow Way, where frozen men first hunted deer. They prayed the sun would keep Ice Age at bay, put their trust in magicians and seers. The girl shed her tears on the slaughter stone, washed the rock till it turned rusty red. Then she all alone did the dance and moan, called him to be wed in her bed. The boy opened up the Triswell SUs, his E-type passed trucks on the rise. Then missed a corner and hit the old U. Harrow Way took his soul for a prize. She sang magic so well, her spell was so strong, the boy's feelings were stronger than death. Demon lust for her pulled his spirit along. He would even kiss lips with no breath. His Jag roared from Stonehenge bottom, braked at Slaughter Stone with a slide. The girl knew at last her love would blossom, and her demon held the Jag door wide. So, daughter, be careful what you wish at the stone. Don't go at night all alone. And please be wise when boys offer a ride. Think of father and don't get inside. Thank you. It leaves the evening quarry, dims into the rain, clunking up to London, the railway's gravel train. The car park under Sainsbury, dark night, summer's end, a trap for the unwary, shadows shelter and befriend. The almost dead, almost rich, go to the playhouse stage. Pensioners, special rates for a play of modern rage. Salisbury ladies talking loud, they aren't scared at all of any sleeping dosser or the boy sat by the wall. Wiser heads look and say, that's us, but for fortune. No, we earned our pension and live lives of boring caution. Gossers sit against the wall with blankets on the ground, a sort of camp, a sort of home, possessions tight around. Not much happened, nothing new, so no conversation. No one wants to hear his fear or share in his sensation. They turn now to the wall and sleep, knowing it's not wise to stay awake and get to know the boy with empty eyes. Shadows watch three pretty girls, bare legs, knickers flashing. Happiness and music in the rainstorm, barefoot splashing. Girls laughing, singing, tumbling, dancing shoes in hand. Their blisters aren't so bad now as they reach the taxi stand. Things in shadow gather, watching waters down the drain. They know the night is waiting for the midnight gravel train. The boy knew girls in leather, others who wore lace. He turned and ran when all of them spat cones in his face. Run, stop, stab blood, his brains a burnt-out labyrinth. But memories, half lies of knives, dream and labouring. Dark shadows cluster round, forgive his earthly hell. Things in shadows, all know stories boys can never tell. It groans to London slowly, the railway gravel train. Two coupled diesels roaring, smoke into the rain. He has the look about him of one who might have slain, or owns an evil conscience that's driving him insane. This is creation, life and death, nothing like mundane. Staring into darkness, hunting for God in the rain. A small transistor hisses, orphs, cantillons profane. If the Rhine to the sea were ours, we'd only feel more pain. The gravel train's in Wiltshire, timetable to maintain. The boy decides at last there are truths to ascertain. No more point in waiting, there's nothing more to gain. He stands and howls and staggers and walks into the rain. More shadows gather watching while he walks up the lane, scrambles up the muddy bank, the railway in the rain. The end of his life's a sodden walk, there's just a bloody stain, lit by Salisbury floodlights on the midnight gravel train. You died, you're one of us now, it's here that you remain, in the darker shadows, praying for God in rain.
Oh, those are great, Edwin. Quite haunting, which I guess is the point. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to kick us off with a little short one. And then following that, I'm going to bring you out Papa Webb, and then we're going to have our special guests very soon. And my phone won't bloody open. Sorry. Apparently it doesn't like my face. Here we go. Burn me. I'll be your Halloween bitch. If you bob me like an apple and turn me 3 times, tip my cauldron over, spill the spells of this kitchen witch. I'll switch it up so you think you win. You'll think you swept the floor with me, but I'll sweep you up my chimney with my broomstick. When I snap my fingers, yours will snap like matchsticks. Start a fire in the hearth, you'll heat the water for my bath with your judgmental heart. Time to make a sacrifice. Now you'll think twice before you start a witch hunt. Because you know now, I'm a nasty witch.
I'm so bad at this.
I'm the worst at hosting. I just walk off if I perform. I'm done now. Everything's over. Night. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Okay, sorry. Papa Webb.
At the annual Halloween ball, 2 ghosts were dancing on the floor. I do feel wicked. I didn't buy a ticket. I just slid in through the wall. That's it for Halloween. Last summer we had the 2020 Olympics. Okay. And I've often thought that to get to the Olympics you have to be obviously very, very good to actually just get there. And to win a medal, silver, bronze, whatever, fantastic. But to get a gold medal is the absolute pinnacle. You have to be extremely good. And hundreds of people won medals in that. But there were 2 guys from this country, or from Great Britain, that won the gold for synchronised diving. That in itself must be a giant accolade, but there was one guy in particular and the media backed him up, but sort of made great play of the fact that he was gay, he had a husband, and he had a son. Now, none of those, there's anything wrong in anything of that, but the gold medal wasn't enough. He just had to sort of bring this out to sort of try and make himself a little bit more special. And I'm sure you can remember his name, some of you. Yeah? Tom Daly, indeed. But of course, it was synchronised diving, and there were two people involved. Now, the other guy, I have no idea of his sexual orientation. I have no idea of his marital or parental status. But how many people can remember his name? He almost became anonymous. And I have to confess here, I had to look it up. His name was Matt Lee. And he was extremely ordinary. And I've often felt that I'm ordinary. And it almost makes me ashamed. I've been like it since birth. So it's my parents that are to blame. I didn't come from a broken home, and although we lived behind the council door, and we never had a lot of dosh, but we were never really poor. I did okay at school, but I never got to grammar. I didn't get to uni, so I had none of that drama. Not particularly fit. I don't go to a gym, and as for my six-pack, it's more of a kilderkin. I'm your average Mr. Average. Average weight, average height, average looks, average... And my skin is lily white. I tried to change that occasionally, but that gets a little shaky. If I stay in the sun too long, I just go red and flaky. I'm not a L or a B, a GT or Q, and I don't really get all the fuss. I'm not any letter of the alphabet, and I'm certainly not a plus. I do have letters after my name, when all is done and said, and I have a certificate to prove it. Officially, I am a B.Ed. My hair has never been blonde or raven black. And I've forgotten the next line. My hair has never been blonde or raven black, but it was quite long back in the day, and it's probably the only part of me that'll ever be 50 shades of grey. I guess I'm resigned to being ordinary, but I try not to show it. But at the end of the day, I'm just an ageing poet. At this point, you're supposed to say, "No, you're not. You're not." Thank you. I thank you. Well, yeah, that's it. I thank you for listening to this dribble, and I wish you health and happiness. And I leave you with this: cows in cows, cowards in cows. Good night.
Age is just a number, Papa Webb. It's the woman that you're feeling that's the difference. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the end of our first half, but before we do, we want to introduce you to our very special guests this evening. They're going to do this like a 15-minute talk. They're going to be back in the second half. And I'd like you to put your hands together and very warmly welcome Frogg, Ruby and Matt, collectively known as Timezone.
Should be all right. Hello, everybody. Right, so my name is Matt Pike. To my right, I have, to your left, I have the beautiful Frogg Moody. And the very intellectual Ruby. To get that all the way around. No, I didn't. And the lovely Ruby as well. So myself and Ruby and Frogg have been working together for many years now. 8 years now, believe it or not. Since we did our first ever Halloween tour, which started around Fisherton.
Are you using this?
I don't need that. Nah, we're going to ad-lib, it's fine. Well, this is right in your face. So yeah, basically, what we've been doing since the very time we started, we came up with this idea at a pub that we would write a Halloween walk. And that's where Timezone started many, many years ago. And we started at the Duke of York, and we picked up all these stories that we thought would be interesting, because we are basically history nerds. And we're frustrated, and we wanted to tell these stories. And from that, many, many years of successful walks and talks and presentations and stuff like that's come. So, we can talk for England, I promise you, but we've had to try and decide which stories we go. So we've been arguing in the corner quite subtly about how we're going to do this. So I'm going to start, and you guys can take a seat for the moment, and I'm going to call on Ruby, and then I'm going to call on Frogg after that, okay? So I think in the second half I have something from Frogg. You can relax, buddy. You're cool, you can relax, that's good. I know, he looks really nervous, doesn't he? But Ruby is looking sinister, which is much, much worse. Right, can I you look proper sinister.
They're not hurt, by the way. It's Destiny's Child.
Right, can I put this up? Is that okay? Is that going to make a horrible thing? Okay, right, so basically, go away. Go away. Go away. Ruby, you can sit down, you can relax. I feel we'll take your sinister babies away. So I'm a frustrated magician. I've been into magic all of my life. I love magic. I went to a party many years ago and someone made a card fly around my head, pulled a penny behind my ear. All that sort of stuff is always really, really, I've been so into it. I spent a fortune on magic tricks. I'm a terrible magician, I'll be honest with you. I drop cards all over the place. But one of my favourite stories, and it is a Halloween theme, is the greatest trick in the world. And I'm not sure if any of you know what the greatest trick in the world was. You know how to do it?
No, I know the trick.
That's a very... Yeah. So, basically, has anybody heard of the Indian rope trick? The story of the Indian rope trick is one of my... so over the years we've researched various bits and pieces, some of it quite dark. I was going to go really dark tonight. I've decided to go a little bit lighter. The Indian rope trick is something that's fascinated me. So there's a chap who reports in the Chicago Tribune in 1890. He records the story while on tour around India that he is told has been travelling around for years and years, that the wise swamis of India since the 9th century have been able to perform the trick that is only known as the Indian rope trick. And the Indian rope trick has 3 different variations and 3 different tellings. In the most basic form, the Indian rope trick is a rope being summoned out of a basket, going rigid or erect, and a child climbing up the top of this rope and then climbing back down. The rope falls. Da-da. The second version of this trick is the child climbs up the rope, which is majestically chanted up, and the magician climbs up and they climb down. Da-da. In 1890, the Chicago Tribune, by a reporter called Fred S. Elmore, he talks about witnessing the Indian rope trick in which, in open field, a basket, a man pipes up a rope. He summons his small child assistant, who climbs up the rope and disappears into a cloud. And then the magician, annoyed at how his assistant has disappeared, shouts angrily up at the cloud and draws himself his sword and climbs up the rope and disappears into a cloud. Then there is a commotion heard from above, and bits of bloody body, quarters of child, rain down from the cloud and land helter-skelter all around this little pot. And then the magician is seen at the top of the rope, where he wipes his sword, calmly climbs down, sheaths his sword, picks up bits of the bloody child, and places them inside, very much as you imagine, the little basket. You can all see it. It's a laundry basket nowadays. All these bits of bloody child. And then the rope falls. And he puts the lid on the top. He turns to the audience and bows just as the child springs out of the basket, completely alive. Pretty cool trick, right? In fact, the greatest trick in the world. And this is reported everywhere. You can see tributes. If you go into the British Newspaper Archive, which has all sorts of newspaper bits and pieces of footage, they are fascinated by this trick. Because it's in the Chicago Tribune. You can't disbelieve a newspaper, can you? And so, here is somebody actually with a show where you can see the Indian rope trick. Sorry. Look at that. Wouldn't you buy tickets for that? In fact, I think you'll find the Indian rope trick has been performed many, many thousands of times. I've never been good enough to be in a magic circle. I know my brother's the electrician for them, but that doesn't really count. But the fascination is such that rewards are offered worldwide for whom can solve or show them and demonstrate the Indian rope trick. And I used to, when I did this talk about 5 years ago on a talk called Sordid Salisbury, have lots of pictures of people attempting this. And I can tell you they look pretty rude. Because you've got chaps climbing up solid poles trying to claim this supposed prize. Now, I've solved the Indian rope trick, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute with my glamorous assistant Frogg. But I feel I should at least explain to you that Fred S. Elmore, he wrote the article in the Chicago Tribune in 1890. Fred S. Elmore. Fred Selmore. And this was a hoax. It was a very, very good hoax. And 4 months later, the Chicago Tribune, on page 17, actually printed an apology, and they said, oh, no, you can't be wrong. But the legacy of the Indian rope trick lives on and on and on. And sometimes that's what it takes. Just an idea, a gem, and it will live in your consciousness forever. And that's one of the things I love about the Indian rope trick. Frogg, can you come up here, please, very quickly, very briefly? You haven't done this in 5 years. Do we have a small child and a sword? No, okay.
I can get one.
No, that's fine. It's
See,
fine.
it's quite small. You can
Right.
use her.
Here I have a perfectly normal bag. I did say I was a rubbish magician. No. The aforementioned perfectly normal bag. And if I do a little bit of... Amazing! Right, brother, I don't know. Right, come here, brother Frogg. Can you remember how to do this? No. Can I come over this side? Okay. And again, of course, a perfectly normal rope. Okay, so this is basically how magicians over the years have done the Indian rope trick. And I'm not the master magician, and hopefully Darren Brown's not going to stab me for saying this, but this is how it's done, okay? But it's done on a much grander scale. So can you just put up there? Thank you. Okay, so perfectly normal rope. For the purpose of this demonstration, we shall use my finger as a cursor. Okay, so perfectly normal rope. And our perfectly normal, oh, hello. Lower. Actually, oh, that's better. So,
It happens a lot.
It happens a lot. I'm 44 now. Do you know what I mean? But basically, this is the effect that when you see the stage magicians, they're doing this effect. It's called the jointed rope. It's a very simple effect. And it goes on until you pull off the joint. Oh, sorry, we are out of practice. But this is what they were trying to do. And they were sticking kids on the end of the stuff. It's a rope with a pieces of bamboo in the middle. So the moment I turn it that way round, it will stick out. And if I'm very skilled, which I'm certainly not anymore, you can turn it and you can get it properly up like this. Woo! And that's what kids were climbing up. And it's pretty dangerous because that happens really regularly. So, Indian rope trick, the greatest trick in the world, or possibly the greatest con ever. I think you'd agree. Shall I hand over to...
Am I climbing up that?
You're not going to climb up it this year. You're not too fit anyway. Ruby, would you like to bring up... Ruby, would you like to bring up your really sinister-looking children?
This scares me.
I can't even watch this. I don't like it. Watch it.
They're not sinister, are they? They're not sinister. They're little innocents. You know, just smother them, a crack over the head, starve them. There's lots of ways to do it. They called me the angel maker. Back in the day, there was no birth control at all. What would you do with too many mouths to feed? If you weren't married, you'd lose your job into the workhouse. It would be dreadful, wouldn't it? Well, a baby farmer like me, you just pay me a bit, I'll take them off your hands, and you know what? I'll tell you they've been adopted by somebody really nice, a really, really rich
couple, and you just pay me a bit, and well, I don't want to lose my profits, of course. So of course, I won't bother to feed them. I'll just starve them and then put them in a little brown parcel and chuck them in the river. 400 of them they estimated I killed, but still. Well, Salisbury, I don't know about any baby farmers, but there were little corpses that turned up at St Martin's churchyard, parcels that were mailed to the railway station. Then there was Mrs Anne Goodfellow in Endless Street. Mrs Anne Goodfellow, she was a widow, and she was big with child. Her friends came round, and well, somehow she wasn't with child anymore, and they didn't see a baby, so they just asked her, well, what happened? She said, well, he breathed once. One of her friends went to the policeman. She thought there was something a bit odd about it. When the policeman came round, there was a big cauldron boiling, bubbling away in the fireplace. So he took off the lid and he saw a big piece of, gammon wrapped in muslin. So he cooled it down and he took it out and he unravelled it. It was bright pink, it was overcooked by then. And a little hand fell off, and an arm and a leg and bits of flesh. But they never know. They could never agree whether that little baby was alive when he went into the pot or whether he was dead forensically. So she just got done for concealing a birth. That's what it would usually be. The old ale house. There was a servant girl there. She gave birth alone in the toilets. Nobody even knew she was pregnant. She worked until the last day. She didn't know what to do with the little body once she'd hit his head on the floor, so she stuffed him in a trunk under the bed. Everyone was very sympathetic at her trial because they knew that she would lose her job, they knew what trouble she was in, and so it was concealing a birth. They didn't accuse her of murder. It was only afterwards they found out it wasn't the first baby she'd had there at all. There'd been quite a few of them. Rebecca Smith devises, Rebecca Smith, the last woman in England to be hanged for killing a baby, for infanticide. She'd had 11 children, and the 11th, little Richard, everyone was very suspicious when he died, little Richard. So they went to the police. It was when she was in prison. She said that she'd already killed the 7 babies before that. She'd rubbed rat poison on her nipples. But never mind, because, all this was because of economics, but they had the answer in New Guinea. In New Guinea, when they killed them, they ate them too. Frogg.
How do you follow that? Oh my God, I've never heard anything like it. And I'm married to her too, so I'll sit well in bed tonight, won't I? So I'm here to lighten things up after that, I think. So how many witches does it take to change a light bulb? Well, I don't know, someone asked me in a pub last night. I hope perhaps you might know the answer. I've got a clue myself. But I suppose I'm here really to promote this book, Supernatural Sorcery, which I'm actually very proud of because it's the first book that I've actually ever written on my own. I've written quite a few co-books, but this is the first one that I've actually written on my own. But unfortunately, I haven't got any copies here tonight. This is just a proof copy because it's the printers, and hopefully it should be ready on Thursday. But if anybody wants to look through it, I've really enjoyed doing this book because it covers everything from crop circles to UFOs, thanks to Matt over there. Superstitions, witchcraft, ghosts, everything's in here. It's only quite a small book, but it covers a hell of a lot. where did it all start? For me, probably with my grandmother, who was immensely superstitious. I was actually a toddler in Middle Woodford, where Matt lives now, don't you, Matt? Yep. He's actually got my uncle to thank for building the house, because he was a Labour councillor, and they wanted these row of houses in Middle Woodford, and he's the one that actually was responsible for getting the houses built. But growing up in Middle Woodford, my grandmother was the most superstitious person I think that I've ever met in my life. You know, if there was some sort of party, a birthday party, you couldn't have 13 people there. Oh no, 13 people at the Last Supper, highly unlucky, can't do that. You couldn't put your boots on the table, very, very bad luck. Because apparently when the miners died, as a mark of respect, they put their boots on the table. So over the years that signifies death, so to put your boots on the table, no, absolutely no way. But once a year in Middle Woodford, the gypsy fraternity used to turn up and they used to pitch their caravans at the Middle Woodford chalk pits. This is where I first heard about my grandmother being superstitious, because the gypsies used to come around all the village houses selling these pegs, and my grandmother was so superstitious that she thought if she didn't buy these pegs, they'd put a curse on her. So consequently, when you opened up the kitchen cupboard, all these pegs would fall out, loads and loads of pegs. She actually had no real reason to be superstitious at all, because my grandfather was the village blacksmith, and we all know the properties of fire and steel, and we all know the properties also of the horseshoe. Very, very lucky. It was my grandfather's father-in-law who actually built the lynch gate in Middle Woodford Church. Lynch gate actually means corpse gate, and the corpses were actually, the coffins were put on the bench in the lynch gate. It was very unlucky for a bride who'd just been married to walk through the lynch gate. Probably that's why that in Middle Woodford there's two entrances to the church, so the bride would never walk through the lynch gate. And talking of horseshoes being lucky, Lord Nelson actually used to have a horseshoe pinned to the mast of his ships. He was very superstitious. I don't quite know if it worked for him, since he lost his arm and his eye and actually was killed in the Battle of Trafalgar, but if it's good enough for Nelson, it's good enough for me.
Didn't work.
It didn't work at all. No. In fact, before he actually said, "Kiss me, Hardy," his famous words, being serious for a minute, he actually did recite some poetry. Would you like to hear it? Okay. Now, I can't remember poetry, so I've had to write it down. Well, and he said, "Oh shit, I'm hit." That was actually a joke. I didn't say that at all. It's just me being a bit silly. The other thing that grandmother was totally worried about was the moon, because we know where the lunatic comes from. They were terrified of the actual the moon shadow hitting you. That's where the word lunatic comes from. And grandmother was terrified when she put the clothes, you know, they used to put the clothes on the clothes horse to dry. If she left the clothes horse up too long and the moonlight went on it, she was absolutely frantic. Very, very unlucky. And in fact, the actual prison in Fisherton that was demolished in 1853, before it was demolished, there was a chap called Harding who managed to get down and look into the cells, which are underground, and he was astonished to find that the prisoners had taken their candles and actually burnt the ceilings black, and they'd drawn all these moon and circles on the ceilings. Very, very unusual, because I don't know if anybody knows, but on the junction of Devizes and Wilton Road was where the gallows were. Yeah, that's where the gallows were. And actually there's, at the moment, that was a waste ground for about 20 years, and now they're actually building on it.
Yeah.
But the original prison, which was where Salisbury Infirmary once stood, they used to put 12 convicts on the back of a cart. They were pulled up with a rope already around their neck to Gallows Gate on a junction of Wilton and Devizes Road, the rope was chucked over the beam, tied, and then a horse and cart was taken back, just leaving the felons hanging there. And when they did a lot of the alterations on that piece of land, they actually discovered 30 skeletons. Well, now they're building on that piece of land, they're going to build 18 flats. I wouldn't want to live there. No way. But these people don't seem to sort of like realise what that land is. It's highly haunted, that whole area. The Fisherton in itself is haunted. When you think what's happened in that small suburb of Salisbury, we've had 2 train crashes with 28 fatalities. It still remains the highest fatality of, or one of the highest fatalities in the history of train crashes in a station. We've had a boy murder. We've had the lunatic asylum with mass suicides. So
Thomas Scammell?
Oh yes, Thomas Scammell, who was the landowner at Fisherton. When the jail was demolished, he bought all the land. He must have had enemies, we think, because he was found decapitated on the nearby railway line. So the whole area is steeped in sort of like mystique and all the rest of it. I live there, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I wouldn't live anywhere else. If I won the lottery, would I go to Barbados? No. Fisherton's the only place for me. So that's it. Anyway, I'd like to finish with a song. No, I wouldn't really. Okay, so have I been 5 minutes?
Yeah!
Absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much, all of you. Jesus, you freaked me out. Where's she gone?
She's run away.
She's run. She should run away, mate. Honestly, I'm like, ooh. Anyway, we're going to head for a break in a moment, so you can go and charge glasses. Hello again. All of you lovely, horrible people who've come out here tonight to hear lots of horrible stories.
Hello.
Welcome back to the second half of Poetica 94, the Halloween Extravaganza. Bravo! Cool. Well, what an amazing first half. Really enjoyed that. Thank you, everybody who contributed. I'm going to put that on the floor. Okay, I'm going to kick off the second half with a little poem. It's based up north, so we're going to do this. Woo! This is called Don't Be Daft. Nah, mate. I don't believe in ghosts and all that hocus pocus malarkey. The t'other side, all that darkly weird talk. I walk the walk, me. Straight down the line, I say what I see. And if I can't see it, yeah, don't exist. So you can keep your scary sheep people and your knocking in the dead of night. Your creepy graveyard miss. This is a right of old bollocks, this. Honestly, mate, you're not telling me there's dead people walking round amongst us. Because, for instance, right, how come they've never seen in Tesco or Lidl, which actually is a fuck lot cheaper, or, you know, even on the bus. Somewhere we can all see them and discuss why they left all the money to my sister who didn't even deserve it anyway, selfish bitch. So, by your reckoning, they come out once a year, yeah, on Halloween. And apparently, they're like sweets, and they're like kids. Trick or treat. Well, I'll tell you something for now. If a ghost knocked on my door, and I answered it, I'd knock it straight out, yeah. But like I just said, you know, there ain't no such thing. It's just an illusion what people buy into, you know, make them feel better. Something to cling on to, like an unproven belief and all that shit, innit? False hope. What's that you said? Halloween. Cheer us up. Something to look forward to after all that lockdown and COVID and Brexit. Mate, don't even go there with me, because I voted out. And I don't believe in things that I can't foresee or might even possibly be right in front of me. But what I do know, okay, is that ghosts are the biggest con ever. And you, my friend, are not a fool for believing in them. You sucker. Thank you. Okay, keep the applause going, because next up we want to introduce Tom to the stage, please. He's at the bar. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, you're up next, Mrs. Destiny. Keep the applause going for Mrs. Destiny.
Okay, so I found this yesterday, and I'll try my best to sing you a lullaby, which you all know, but with a bit of a twist. Hush, little baby, don't you squall. Mama's gonna buy you a crystal ball. And if you don't see beyond, Mama's gonna buy you a magic wand. And if your wand don't change your fate, Mama's gonna teach you to levitate. And if your astral travel makes you sick, Mama's gonna buy you an incense stick. And if your patchouli smells too rank, Mama's gonna buy you a sensory deprivation tank. And if the tank don't make your bones, and if the tank don't float your bones, Mama's gonna buy you some precious stones. And if the stones don't ease your heart, Mama's gonna buy you a natal chart. And if your planets go berserk, Mama's gonna buy you some body work. And if your aura still needs kneading, Mama's gonna buy you a past life reading. And if your destiny stays hid, Mama's gonna buy you a pyramid. And if your chakras still feel stressed, Mama's going to take you on a vision quest. And if power animals don't come to ya, sorry kids, it was just your karma. Sorry, you found that last note, so I protected it, but
That's amazing.
hold on. And the next one is somewhat a poem and also somewhat a spell, and a couple of you have already heard it because last month for Equinox we held a little ceremony. Yeah. And a few of you might know Grovely Woods and the Four Sisters, and it is about those trees. I call for healing all here present. We bring to this circle our own life lessons. We entrust in you, Four Sisters, our wholehearted intentions. Together, we will manifest them. We know there is so much more, giving all of ourselves to these universal laws. We gather here at this time and place to honour the equilibrium of the day and the night. We are here to share our ancient insight, honouring the sources in which give us life, asking the higher powers to guide us through darkness and immerse us in light.
Cheers, our kid, that was smashing that. Right, is anybody going to be using this? Shall I leave it out of the way or shall I leave it here? Hands up, you might be using it. One lady. Right, I'll move it out of the way till you're on, kiddo, yeah?
How much did that cost, Poetika? You
This beautiful song cost it like £100,000.
And we're not
This is why we need
using
£3 donations, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, next up, can I invite... Are you old again now, James, or have you recovered?
No, I'm still.
You're still old. Please put your hands together for the very old Mr. James.
These ones are not really on film, but I'll pick them anyway. I actually lost these and I found them again and I thought, oh, that'd be good. Here we go. This one's called Earth. Phenomenal female, elegant energies, powerful pieces. Ecological ethics, necessary nature. Divine design, expressed through thoughts via mind and time. Our collective conscious experience, expressing our urgent, truant deliriums. Wind turbines whirring, animals stirring. We are living and learning that we are all her children. Loving and turning this world into our sandpit. We are down to the oil sands now. I can't stand it. Wake up, please. Your Earth Mother demands it. Don't discount, avoid or neglect. Don't fail to overlook or reject. Reflect on your spurn of the rest, for this is the truest of life's little tests. We can feed, we can farm without doing her harm, and still have time left for some jest. Raise a glass with me now, let us toast, for it is this planet that provides us with the most.
Thanks.
Just smoking stage.
No, you are. If it's relevant to the performance.
I'm afraid it's not.
Genuinely though, stage becomes designated smoking area.
I bear that in mind.
Not the case.
Okay, so this one. Yeah, let's do this one.
Thomas.
So this one's called Death Cage. Mort. It means death in French. Gauge is defined in the dictionary as a measurement in a linear dimension according to some standard or system. Taking that into consideration, please reevaluate our situation. We work so hard for bricks and mortar, hoping to one day to pass it on to our sons and daughters. Desperate for security, locking our doors and shutting ourselves in. Am I the only one who sees this as sin? The crimes, perversely pushed and predominantly perpetuated against nature. The beauty of the beast that tames us, maims us, drives us forward and pains us. No? Tell me you do. For the standard or systems that measure our death is not bricks and mortar, but our own life's breath. For you see, it is the vibration in your throat that brings true beauty to note, that rambunctious ringing of the spells you are singing. Bring life to those words and the life you believe in. Be wary, my friends. Take heed and do listen, for there is more to your life than the layout of your kitchen.
Okay, Tom, I think you're back from the... are you going to perform for us now, Tom?
I'll tell you.
Okay, you going to tell me? Okay.
The situation is, I've got to walk to the train station. If nobody can give me a lift to the train station, I can't do the poem.
I can give you a lift.
Right afterwards?
What, straight after
Yeah.
the poem?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to do another poem.
I'll do it. Are you sure? Thank you very much.
Right, who's got stage?
Bless you people. Thank you very much. Well, I've had a mare tonight. Someone's directly called up and tried to get me kicked out because they said I was on pub watch. Now, it's to do with my ex. Last 14 weeks I've had a breakup and she's like, I'm not down her. Like, she's basically made it her goal to run me out of Salisbury, and this is evidenced by what's happened tonight. Someone's seen my Facebook story and decided to call the pub up and try to get me kicked out because apparently I'm on pub watch. It was checked and I wasn't on pub watch.
But you're here now.
So,
Let's do the poem.
what's your name, sorry? You've made it possible so I can do the poem because if I couldn't get left, I'd have to go right now. So, round of applause for this man. My name's Tom. My alias is Malasse. I'm a rapper. But tonight I'm going to be doing a rendition of the latest poem what's been going on in my life recently. I had to move back to Somerset for all the fucking drama that's been going on with my ex. So the pub watch thing sets the scene perfectly. This is called Retreat. Thanks for listening. By the way, everybody's looking lovely tonight. Good effort. Sorry, I'm not in the Halloween outfit. I'm doing the rap look. Getting the rap look. Will, you getting your camera out, man?
I'm multitasking.
This is called Retreat. This wasn't the plan. I wanted to show that I was the man. All the attacks I could withstand. Taking each punch, watching them land. Rising up again and again, ignoring her commands. To leave this place and don't come back. Her objective was clear and with each attack. Walk away from Salisbury and don't come back. And I felt the need, time and time again, but my defeatist thoughts I would consistently amend. But it led me to the point where I was homeless and broke, and my stubborn refusal to leave needed to be revoked. And in me an idea awoke. Just because I leave, it's not counted as a loss. And from Wiltshire to Somerset I can walk across. My stubbornness I can toss, and to come to a place I can rebuild. My life and some stability I can yield, and my damaged heart can be filled. A peacefulness can be distilled, and over time it will be revealed that I've recovered back to myself and better than ever. And be proud of the fact that the storm of the past I have weathered. I have broken free, released when I was tethered, and hate and bitterness I have successfully severed. And with renewed strength I will then return, and the trials and tribulations have forced me to learn that although every effort was made for my bridges to be burned, the past is now not my concern. I've got 1% battery. And it's taken me to reach rock bottom for me to discern that retreating needs not to be considered a defeat. I just for now need to take a back seat, to distance myself from the overwhelming heat. And when I return to the city that's in my heart, a brand new chapter can be the start. But for now I depart. That reluctant decision indeed is smart. So to all my friends I bid you adieu. This recovery I have to see through. But I love you all, and this much is true. And when I return, I'll be at the front of the queue. I gotta go.
Thank you, Tom. I don't think we've ever had an emergency poem before, but I thank you very much for that. Yeah, it was really, really, really good. Cheers, baby. Okay, very quickly we're going to invite Mr. Edwin Starr. His name's Edwin Starr. His name's Edwin Hopper, but I would love to hear him sing some fucking blues one time. Edwin, are you paying attention?
No, I was...
You're not paying attention, are you?
I had a chat. Sorry.
You're not here to chat?
No, everyone was confiding in me that he was on pub watch, but nobody should mention it.
Are you on pub watch? Do you want to just get out now? Get him out, bouncer! Right. Would you like to come and read a poem instead?
I often watch pubs. Sorry, do you want me to read a poem?
Oh, I don't need to write a poem, because it's going to take ages and we're running out of time. I'd like to read one.
Okay, right.
Put your hands together, Mr. Edwin Starr. Actually, Mr. Edwin Hopper.
Wait, before you get ejected.
Aha, right, yeah. If you're fed up with tired old cliche, or dancing at the local palais, if you want a place that's really risque, then drive out beyond the streetlights and stray past a crash site with a dead rose bouquet. Turn off the tar onto gravel and clay, then park at the out-of-town cafe. The waitresses smile and say, yes, okay, to tea for truckers on a cheap tin tray, and chips with ketchup from a red sachet. Men look, sigh and smile while watching them sway. Lips, hair, hips and breasts, and then they fall prey to magic spells stolen from Morgan Le Fay, ending in thrall to the out-of-town cafe. There's grown men frightened to disobey the mysterious accountant in grey, a boss whose followers like to slay those who let morals slide down to decay, Fulfilling desires all weird, straight and gay, then full with dismay to finally pay all that is owed to the out-of-town cafe. Cops search out villains like the brothers Cray, look round, see evidence on display. They never find goods from the Rio del Rey or someone who travelled from far cafe. Back of the car park in a dark chalet, so cops say next time and drive away to type reports on the out-of-town cafe. No one really knows what they purvey or how they get it through airport X-ray. Excise are enticed and laid in hay or end their days under a motorway. Skulls crushed like paper mache. Well, it's all rumours. It's just what they say, because I've never been to the out-of-town cafe. Thank
you. You want to get out a bit more, Red? Okay, right, we're going to have my beautiful co-host back up here. She's just reapplied the lipstick. She looks astounding. Please put your hands together for Miss Ria.
Oh, thank you very much. I have 2 poems. I think they're quite, well, I'll try and make them quick. Okay. That's easier. So, a few of you have heard this one, but it's quite topical because I got quite obsessed about making my costume just so. And that kind of inspired this poem.
You look amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you, but it hasn't all arrived, and I'm a little bit cross about that.
We wouldn't know unless you just said.
Okay. Uh-oh. I'm getting obsessive again. And I'm finding it kind of fun. It's like waiting for the band to come on, the drum roll, the sound check, the tease of the lights. And I've already spent twice my budget on the overpriced merchandise. I'm anxious for the week ahead, Sunday dread surfacing from the weekend steps. But if you buy a surfboard, and I probably will, you can ride the wave and buy the suit to match and stick the air freshener in your car and detach yourself and swathe yourself in costumes for every interest you might possess, for every you are. My Amazon basket is a trolley, and I'm gliding down the aisles with my feet off the ground, wheels spinning, and a screen reflected in my hungry eyes. My mind is one track when I'm like this. I eat, sleep, and breathe, whatever it is this time, consuming my mind and my wallet. I call it research. As I Google and Google and Google, and the parcels begin to arrive, I tick them off and extend my list. Isn't it just fabulous when a new fad hits? I open a new section in my library, ordered in my own super fantastic system, and the bookshelves heave with new information, dewy drops of dewy decimals to drink up with words and pictures, with thirsty gratification, and to find more, to learn. I want it all. I fall asleep with my laptop on my chest, and the screen seeps into my dreams. Even in my sleep, the images of my obsession capture every moment, flashing and impressing me like I've been hypnotized. Then I'll wait, and when I wake, I'll keep scrolling, and I'll buy the feeling the subject is selling, shiny and imploring, peeling up the corners of my morning, and pinning up posters, whatever it is this time. Whatever it is, it's mine. I can buy anything. I can do anything. If I had wings, I could even fly. That's how I learned to breathe underwater. Or so I like to believe. As I swim, my divisible by 10 lines, up and down, I smile to the blue, because it's true. And it's me, and I'm a fish. Because when you make a wish on a fish scale of 1 to 10, how impulsive do you feel? I'd say 15. It's divisible by 5, and that's all right. And besides, you can't read my mermaid mind through my mermaid buys, and the shelves of shells that I collected and collated and put up in my museum. I am curator and professor and performer and consumer, and perhaps I'm getting faster as I'm getting quite obsessive. And to me it seems quite ordered, because it's exactly what I wanted, and I think I want another. And I'm getting obsessive again. These thoughts keep clattering inside my skull like they somehow expect to hatch into a shiny new birth of fury and fun, excitement and desperation. I find it agreeable that it's not treatable, and medication has not quelled this symptom. I'm scrolling and pinning up pictures and ditching the dishes, to switching my wardrobe and swimming in rivers, and Cloud9 award goes to me and my surfboard. I love being obsessive. It's part of my mindset, to set up my projects and get all productive. It's sometimes conducive to being creative, but being so elated, that's one thing I hate. What goes up must come down. Thank Thank you very much. Halloween definitely triggers my obsessive qualities. And this poem is in memory of my auntie Abigail Amber. Witches and matchsticks swirl smoke between lips, and with every little kiss is just the faintest touch of Abigail. And from beneath the brim of your hat and the sliding tail of your oriental lilac cat comes you, in between the darlings and the amber rings and the spiders in your handwriting. They're always dancing and whirling, your words are unrolling. Received pronunciation flickers on its wick as the witch tries to stick maiden mother crone. You can't pick when every phrase is you and you alone. So with a sip from your potion, you set the witchcraft in motion, with a little class, a little flair, and in your black gown and your black hat, you take your throne in Morticia's chair, your cat and your smoke, and the scream of the spirits thrill me. It's no wonder I knew you were gone before they told me. Thank you.
Stunning, thank you, darling. That's very, very, very good piece. Can we invite Sarah up to the stage, please? Yes, Miss Sarah. You didn't buy another one. You didn't buy a poem. They're selling in Poundland, you know. That's where I get all mine from. You thought it was Amazon? I can't afford fucking Amazon. What do I look rich? Anyway, in that case, that was a joke, by the way. It's okay. Can I invite Mr. Papa Webb to come and entertain us? You alright? I'll get out your way first. Yeah, that's the... Do that, shall we?
At the annual Myths and Legends Ball, King Arthur met Robin Hood on the dance floor. They stopped, they stared, they stood. Arthur said to Robin Hood, "Are you a figment of my imagination, or am I one of yours?" I don't do social media. I'm not on WhatsApp, but whatever thing. But I read that people who do, they send sort of messages to each other telling them what they were doing during the day, you know, sort of what they had, meal times and how many times they cut their nails and things, you know. It all seemed a bit weird to me, but so I thought, well, if that's what people want to know, I was out in the park the other day and I saw this lady sat on a bench. So I sat down and began to say about what I'd had for breakfast. But she just got up and walked away. Clearly had somewhere better to be, so I looked up and I could see, sat on the grass, a group of youngsters. So as I passed, I told them how many times I'd been to the loo. And the colour of my poo. I even showed them a photograph, but all they did was laugh and take the piss, which I thought was very remiss. And then one picked up some grass and threw it in my face. That's the trouble with the youth of today, they're just a bloody disgrace. But as I looked up, I saw an old lady feeding a duck. I thought, oh, this will be a bit of change of luck. And I walked across, I barely said a word before she began to wield her umbrella just like a sword. And with one rapier-like thrust, caught me in the area that hurts the most. And as I was bent double in pain, she beat me again and again. And then I looked up and saw the lady I'd first met, accompanied by an officer of the law. He took me gently by the arm and led me to the park gate. He told me to go on home and best not hesitate. Undaunted, I thought, well, perhaps I should do a blog, you know, talk to thousands. So I got my late hailer and went down to the town centre, and I began to regale the throng about all the things in my life that had been going wrong. At first I thought they were cheering, then I realised they were jeering. I saw a man coming out, dressed in a suit, shouting out loud, but I could barely hear what he said above the noise of the crowd. He was quite important, dressed like a toff. Didn't quite catch what he said, but the last word was off. And then I saw coming my way the officer of the law I'd met earlier in the day. He just took me by the arm and led me away. Said I'd have to accompany him to the station. I tried to explain I was in no need of a train, but the magistrate was very kind. She said my sentence would be suspended, but she'd have to give me a fine. And she was very generous, I suppose. She also gave me 2 asbos. Thank you for that. Once again, thank you for listening to this rubbish, and just leave it with this thought: if you can only ever be one thing, please be kind.
I can totally believe you got a nose flower. That is not beyond the realms of possibility. Okay, next up we have Andrea. You'd like to read for us again, yeah? Andrea? Thank you.
I'll make use of the music sound.
It only cost £100,000, so I would.
You didn't buy that on Amazon. This was my first attempt of writing a Halloween-themed poem before the quirky children approach one came out in the first half. And I've actually given it a title, so it's called Intrusive Dreams. Softly spun web in a corner, dark and deep, spun silently whilst asleep. Suddenly awoken from deep slumber by the darkened night of thunder, the spider in mind sight, silently spinning darkly into the night. It's comforting. It's comfortably weaving intricacies and complexities of the web pattern, not unlike neurons in the mind's transmitting, to bring you around from the unearthly sombre gloom to the quiet of the room, eyes wide open, though it is in dense dark surrounds. Silence is comforting, the thunder is distant, serenely snug and warm, reaching to light a candle is also comfort. To watch the spider, methodic with its deftly movements and rhythmically consistent. The flame flickers lighting up the spider dance, watching as she weaves her web, the spider in eyesight, in the glow of the candlelight, lulling you into a meditative trance. That distant thunder is now only a brief glance, focusing in on the delicate lace of the web. A gentle breath, a sigh of relief. It was a darkened dream, darkened with thunder, now safe to sleep into a meditative slumber, now comforted and warm. No alarm from the storm, the web is intact, not shredded and torn, like the dark weave of the mind when the thunder strikes. It's now calm in sleep time. Thank you.
You all done. Let me get rid of this very, very expensive equipment over here.
Thank you, Andrea. That was beautiful. Next up, we've got the crazy Mr. Mike. Put your hands together for the crazy Mr. Mike.
Short time, I shall need 3 witches. 3 witches round this microphone.
Are you having a laugh?
No.
Oh, God.
4 witches.
Yeah,
well. Right. After every line that I say, I want you to say, and we'll practice them first, slowly fading black.
Slowly fading black.
That's pretty
So
good.
we say them all at the same time.
Yeah. All together. Okay.
Right. Do you want to use the mic?
Okay. There's a bit more. Right. Are you ready? Is this on?
Yeah, he's just doing it now.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You can just choose.
Writing on a wall.
Slowly fading black.
Messages are faint.
Slowly fading black.
Cinema closing down.
Slowly fading black.
Never coming back.
Slowly fading black.
Eyes are losing light.
Slowly fading black.
Fancies going dark.
Slowly fading black.
Kiss inside a park.
Slowly fading black.
Memory of you.
Slowly fading black.
An alligator shoe.
Slowly fading black.
A Serengeti lion.
Slowly fading black.
Darkness all around.
Slowly fading black.
Even all the stars.
Slowly fading black.
Canary in a mine.
Slowly fading black.
Like a heart attack.
Slowly fading black.
They're brilliant, these
You can't write something like this.
I'm going to do that again. Canary in a mine.
Slowly fading black.
Like a heart attack.
Slowly fading black.
Occupants disappear.
Slowly fading black.
Credits at the end.
Slowly fading black.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Oh, it's like Crystal Maze.
I won the Krypton Factor. Okay, we've got the lovely June. Do you have more poetry for us this evening, June? Please welcome June to the stage.
How's that?
That's better.
Marvellous.
This is a dark one, but a comforting one, I think. It's called The African Night. The African night of my childhood was deliciously dark. It held no real fear, only imagined terrors. If it suited me to do so, I would walk through it without a second thought. These nights of my memory were warm like a mother's arms around one, and always humid. So it stood to reason that the only covering one needed were the stars, or a sheet, and that was only there to keep the blood-sucking mosquitoes off, and the softly thudding hawk moths from bumbling into my face, or any other part of my body for that matter. I would cocoon into my bed sheets to keep the bugs out. Compared to life in America, we lived so close to the earth, though I never thought of it in those terms. We dealt with houseflies, carrion flies, horseflies. Then there were a gazillion different types of ant, including flying ants. These would rise up out of an unobtrusive hole in the ground at night, at an invisible signal, in their thousands, and formed great clouds wherever there were pools of light. By daybreak they had lost their wings, and the invasion was over, just copulating twos here and there, long, narrow, punchy bodies connected together. Then there were sand fleas, dog fleas, and cat fleas. They were a dreadful nuisance and could wreak havoc on our pets and in our homes. As always in nature, if you know enough, there was a cure for all. Indigenous to South Africa, the repellent for fleas and ticks was the distinctive smelling kakibos grass. My mother knew this and grew it somewhere in her garden. When needed, she would cut and spread it over the infected floor or carpet. Soon all would once again be well, harmony reigning, until the next time.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm so sorry, June. I bumped into you. I can't see anything with this wig on. I can't see. I can't feel. I'm sorry, operator.
Have you got it on the wrong way round?
Yeah.
We're getting here with that little moment where it wasn't working as it was supposed to, and then everything worked out fine. Okay? I'm just going to unplug here, and then move this over here, and now the stage is completely free for whoever wants to come up. And I can pack up in peace. Yeah, beautiful. Good, thank you.
William, not really.
Sorry. It's my fault. I made it complicated.
Hello. Hello. Okay, right, we are coming to the end of our evening. And I want to introduce once more our amazing historian. Yeah, you, hurry up. Our amazing historians to give us the last part of our amazing evening tonight. So please put your hands together one more time for Timezone!
Really like that.
He's my friend of the classes.
That's cool. Of course, everything I've said. Hello again. Right, so, remember me, I'm Matt. Hi, I'm part of Timezone Productions, and for years we've been doing talks about things that are slightly awkward and controversial and trying to, prick people's imaginations when it comes to this time of year. And as Ruby has now set the precedent of doing something pretty awful, I feel a little more comfortable doing what I'm going to do next. So I'll do this as quickly as I can. And this is not PC. This is not nice. But it's true. And that's the way that Timezone works. So we are researchers. Ultimately, that's how it works. And we all have different areas of speciality. Some of you may know I'm a specialist in Stonehenge in that area. And Frogg is slightly twisted, and Ruby also. But we've been working together for years now, and we have these lovely dinner parties. And every now and then we think, okay, we're going to be writing this new tour, and I write notes, and we drink copious amounts of wine, and these notes get recorded down. I want to bring you back to it. About 5 years ago, I had an amazing night with the guys, and in the morning I looked at what I had to research. And literally, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, my note said, the lady with the big bottom. And I was like, what have I been looking into here? And I'm going to be honest with you, it sounds like such a lovely story. But it was without a doubt the one story that has cut me cold. The one story that I've never been able to forget. The one story I've never been able to lose. And it's dark, and I'm sorry, I'm going to tell it to you now. So, this is the story of Sanjay Batman, or even Sarah Batman. Some of you may have been on the tours over the years, but this is going to cut pretty close to the quick, and I'm hopefully going to do it justice, because it's a difficult story. But there's a poem at the end. Sanjay Batman, she is a lady who grows up in 1787. Okay, so a very, very long time ago now. And she grows up on the Eastern Cape of South Africa. And she is part of the Hokai tribe. And basically, her mother passes away when she's 3 years old. Her father passes away when she's 12 years old. And she is married to a warrior of the tribe. And at the age of 16. At the age of 16, you never guess who, but the Dutch actually invade the area where she's living. Her husband is murdered, and she is put into slavery. And Sanjay is a legend, and I hope this story will stick with you like it does with me. And I hope, like I said, I hope I do it justice. So Sanjay is, or Sarah Batman as she's known, is befriended or bought by a chap called Peter Césaire. And Peter Césaire, he uses her on his plantation, and actually uses her as a wet nurse for many, many years, until the age of about 17. But Sanjay is a beautiful woman. She's a very beautiful woman, and she has a beautiful voice. But this sounds weird, but I'm going to say it because it's true. She is adorned by what the Kokai women are very well known for in South Africa, and that is with having a very large bottom and very large thighs, and quite interesting other parts of her body that science are fascinated at the time because they're pretty twisted. So, remember, we're back in 1800 and something silly. Okay, so what happens is that Sanjay is offered the chance by Peter Cesar to become a star. He will offer a contract for 5 years where she will work and in London as a dancer, as a singer. She will become a true legend. Now, I remind you all, if anyone's seen The Greatest Showman, yeah? P.T. Barnum. Not the greatest guy in the world. Okay, so that story's wonderful. It's a beautiful, uplifting story. But there's a dark side to this side of thing. And that's this idea of exhibiting humans. And that is a thing. That's a big thing. Now, Sanjay is exhibited in Salisbury. That's the whole reason why I know this story. So Sanjay, she cracks a deal with Peter Cesar. She moves from the Eastern Cape and she comes to London. And she is exhibited for her large... It sounds ridiculous now I'm saying it. For her large bottom and the fact that she was so dark and so unusual to us living in Salisbury at the time that we would go, whoa, what? I've never seen anything the likes of. She makes her way around London. She's a top-selling show. I have adverts here. This is an advert from the Venus Hottentot, as she was called. And if you're Dutch, I apologise, because that is kind of a racy word in Dutch. But the Venus Hottentot, or Sanjay Batman, is displayed in London many, many times. And the show goes a little bit like this. And she was complicit in this. So Sanjay was displayed topless. She signed up. Like I said, she signed a contract. She was signed for 5 years. She would be brought out in a 1.5 metre high cage and rolled out in front of the people, where you would be challenged if you had the bravery to touch her bottom, to maybe watch her dance. People in their thousands lined up to see the Venus Hottentot. She's an absolute sensation. But it's worth pointing out, in 1807, slavery in this country was deemed illegal, and in 1833 it was downright illegal all over the Commonwealth. But in 1807, people were beginning to think, this is wrong. This is wrong, looking at people being exhibited in this way. But she had signed a contract. She had signed a contract to wear furs, turn up in this cage, and dance for the people that watched her. They'd pay 2 shillings for the price. And she was very, very famous. She was an absolute sellout. She was mentioned in the papers up until 1810, when a couple of Liberal MPs turned up to watch Sanjay's show. And, forgive me, I'm going to try and demonstrate roughly what Sanjay's show would work like. But it's very well established. There's a couple of movies. Beyonce's literally meant to be playing her among the films. Sounds weird, but it's true. So they would pull out the cage, and Sanjay would play up to the fact that she was a wild animal. People would be scared as she'd roar at them. She'd be topless. They would not be used to this. And then eventually, as the show rolled on and rolled on, dare you, give me a couple of shillings and you may touch her bottom. It's sickening. It's horrible stuff, but it's true. So Sanjay Batman becomes such a national interest that she's in many different newspapers. And I've got to be careful not to go on too long about this story. Here she is in the national press. There's a picture of Sanjay with a massively exaggerated bottom. There's many other examples of her. Okay, you can look this up. This is a very famous story. So Sanjay, ultimately, she makes her way around these various different freak shows run by people like P.T. Barnum, who's now the greatest showman. He's cool. It's not cool. And the result of which is that these 2 Liberal MPs take her to court. They'll take her owners to court, because Peter Cesar is technically her owner. And when she's asked to testify, she says that she loves her job. It's a great job. She gets money, she gets whiskey, she has 2 slaves of her own. Why shouldn't she like her job? And they leave her alone. But the ticket receipts fall. They fall massively. People don't want to see this show. It doesn't feel right anymore. It's non-PC. So Peter Cesar meets up with a guy called Dunlop and sells Sanjay Batman. Sells her over to France, where, to be honest, there's slavery laws hasn't kicked in yet. Savory's fine over there. And she is paraded around these different shows in a very similar way, where she's pulled out in a cage and oh, dare you touch the Hottentot Venus's bottom. Now, I have to be very careful about this, because this is a crude story. It's a horrible story, but it's a true story. She has a couple of abnormalities about her body that is particularly peculiar about people from the southern African region, and scientists are determined to study her body. Fact. So Napoleon Bonaparte, the doctor, actually books an appointment to hire her for 2 weeks, and they take her to Paris and they paint her, they probe her, they study her. But the one area that Sanjay won't let them look at is very private. But they have an undying interest in this area, and she won't let them look there. They want to draw, they want to... So she runs away, and Peter Cesar is disgusted. Mr. Dunlop is disgusted, and they just cut all ties with her, and she's left destitute. She finds herself working her way through prostitution, and eventually... I mean, this is an awful story, but it's an awful story. But so Sanjay Batman, at the age of 26, is found dead in Paris, in her hotel room, after performing for various members and families and dancing around for their delight. Now, Sanjay Batman, this is where the story gets really twisted. So Sanjay Batman's body, her corpse, was bought by Peter Cesar, who then sold it to the people who wanted to investigate her and look at her bits and pieces. This is true, right? And a plaster cast of her body was taken. She was dissected. Her very private parts were put into jars in formaldehyde, and they were put on display in Paris at the Museum of Man for 170 years. In 1998, a chap, fantastic philanthropist, he started looking into the story, and he started researching it. He campaigned at the Museum of Man, and he demanded to know why it was acceptable to have human remains, these particular human remains, on display in the museum at this day and age. I mean, I don't know where you want to be buried or burned, or I personally, I look after a museum where we have 2 skeletons in there. It really, really hits me, this story. So, ultimately, there's a campaign that involves Nelson Mandela and Thabo Mbeki and a huge amount of people from South Africa campaigning for Sanjay Batman's remains to be removed from the museum and given an honourable burial. And it's not till 2002 that Sanjay is given a full state burial in Cape Town. Now, Sanjay Batman, it's a story that I had never heard of. The lady with the big bottom. It seemed like such a little joke. But ever since I learnt that story, it sat with me. And it sits there with a very nasty taste in my mouth. And it's not until very recently, until I realised we were back at Poetika, that I found a poem that was the main campaigning reason, one of the powerful reasons that Sanjay was removed from the museum and reburied. It is Halloween, I'm sorry this is dark. Right, so I'm going to read the poem. I have come to take you home. Home. Remember the veld? The lush green grass beneath the big oak trees. The air is cool there. The sun does not burn. I have made you a bed at the foot of the hill. Your blankets are covered in bitu and mint. The proteas stand in yellow and white. The water in the stream chuckles and sing-songs as it hobbles over little stones. I have come to wrench you away from the poking eyes of the man-made monster who lives in the dark with his clutches on imperialism, who dissects your body bit by bit, who likens your soul to that of Satan and declares himself the ultimate God. I have come to soothe your heavy heart. I have come to offer my bosom to your weary soul. I will cover your face with the palms of my hands, and I will run my lips over the lines in your neck. I will feast my eyes on the beauty of you, and I will sing of you, for I have come to bring you peace. I have come to take you home, where the ancient mountains shout your name. I have made you your bed at the foot of the hill. Your blankets are covered in bitumen mint, and proteus stand in yellow and white. I have come to take you home, where I will sing for you have brought me peace, for you have brought us peace. That's Sanjay Batman's story.
Well, I've got to tell you something happy after that. That was such a terribly sad story, isn't it? So I've got two things that are happy. The first one is I didn't trip up over my long dress on the stair carrying the baby. Yes, that's the other happy thing. I made an angel. Never sitting down. But there's even another happy thing, because do you know, this baby, this little baby was actually stillborn, and they found out when I was a bit younger, that babies that were stillborn and that were attached to the placenta still, and if they were buried, and actually they were dug up even up to half an hour later, they could still be resuscitated because they hadn't breathed in. And like if you wanted to bury them for some reason because you had too many mouths to feed, and if actually it was dug up, they could actually survive on the placenta. So this is a very happy story. So after that, really, yeah. There's even more happy things to tell you, because my dress didn't catch fire either. That's it, in the interval, because so many women with coal fires or candles might have caught fire. So it's something, yes, that's very good all round. My older children, I have got some more. I've got some toddlers as well, and they survived because I send them out to play, even though they're only aged 3 or 5. Because I'm working, I'm doing the housework all the time, and I want to be alone to do that. So I open the front door and I send them out, and they've got friends. They've got the little 6-year-old next door usually looks after my 3-year-old. And, I know the river's not far, and we've asked lots of times that they should fence it in, because, so many of the neighbours' children have drowned. But I agree that it's trespassing, isn't it? It's trespassing. If they were to wander over there and just fall in the river, it would be their own fault, wouldn't it? And I trust the 6-year-old, who's pretty good. It's terrible sometimes. I mean, I do feel quite worried when I have to pop down to the shops and I do leave the baby around. Well, I know we don't have a fire garden, and I've got water boiling there, but, I mean, that's the way it is, isn't it? That's the way it is. You've just got to let them get on with it, really, and hope for the best. And I suppose I'm very hopeful. I think this is a really, I feel so much happier than I felt before. It's really quite a happy story, isn't it? I mean, he's survived for the moment. He survived for the moment, and do you know what? Things are getting better. Things are getting better, because there's a bottle that's been invented, which I mean to get in. It's a glass bottle. It's got a long rubber tube,
And I know that they call it a murder bottle somewhere. You know, they said in America that it's a murder bottle, but you know, they just don't want us working mothers, you know, to be able to leave the baby sitting with a glass bottle and a long rubber tube. You know, but Mrs. Beaton, she did that. She's done this great cookbook, Mrs. Beaton, and she says you don't have to wash those rubber tubes very often. She says in it, you know, you could wait 4, 5, 6 weeks without washing the rubber tube. So I mean, it's so much less work for me, isn't it? So I think I'm going to buy him one of those bottles soon, and then he'll just be able to, I can just pop him up really and let him sort of feed himself. It'll be quite good. And I'm sure, though, that Froglet here has got some other happy things to tell you.
So I'm going to finish the Timezone off today. And it was interesting, actually. I didn't expect Matt to be talking about the Hottentot Venus, who I think, Matt, appeared in Salisbury. Well, she did actually appear in Salisbury, because Salisbury in those days, all around the market square, had lots of function rooms before television, radio, that sort of thing. And freak shows in Salisbury were very, very popular, including one that I read about in the Salisbury Journal, which was the Stone Swallower. And this chap had a trellis table in front of him with a series of pebbles on, which he swallowed. And just to prove that he did swallow these pebbles, he then proceeded to jump up and down so the audience could hear them rattling in his stomach. So it's actually a true story. Eventually, surprisingly, he died. He OD'd on rock, apparently. Of course, probably the most famous freak is the Elephant Man, who never actually appeared in Salisbury. We've all heard of the Elephant Man, haven't we? Yes. Yep, and we've all seen those pictures of what he looked like. Not a pretty sight. John Merrick, he was actually shown on the Whitechapel Road in a shop window until he was discovered by a chap called Treves, who worked in the London hospital, dead opposite where the Elephant Man was being shown in this window. Treves had never seen anything like this before in his life. This was a complete and utter, the biggest freak of nature that anybody had ever seen. So Treves took him back to the London hospital, gave him his own room and looked after him. Now, it's always been said that the Elephant Man was a quiet, studious type character, very gentle, very particular. Not a bit of it at all. The Elephant Man was actually a pain in the arse, according to Treves. So Treves looked after him, and all the Elephant Man did was to moan, and Treves got fed up with this, fed up to the back teeth. And one day he said, "I've just about had enough of you. Pack your trunk and piss off." That's a joke. Elephant Man, trunk. A little bit below the belt. But I think the last story, just to finish off, probably my favourite story from the book to do with witchcraft, and the most famous witch in Salisbury was called Anne Bodenham. Has anybody ever heard of Anne Bodenham? Have you? Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Because I follow Fisher History Society.
Oh, yes. There's probably one story that you won't have heard. But Anne Bodenham, we're going back now to 1654 in the Fisherton area again of Salisbury. Anne Bodenham taught the poor people of Fisherton, mainly the children, to read, and she also put together herbs, so if the children were sick, she was able to nurse them back to health. Now, in the Cathedral Close, there was a very well-off family called Goddard, and the Goddard family had a maid who was horrified one day to find that the actual silver, spoons, etc., had gone missing. Now, she knew of this lady who lived in Fisherton. She'd been to her before. There was a rumour that she was a witch, which, of course, she wasn't. She was just what they called a cunning woman who worked with herbs. But anyway, Anne Stiles, the housemaid, went to her to say, "Look, I wonder if you can help me." The silver's gone missing from my master, and I stand to get in big trouble here. Is there any way you can use your powers to help me find out what's happened to the silver? To which Anne Bodnam said no. Too long has passed. It was probably the errand boy that took the stuff, but I'm afraid I can't help you. She went back home again, and then the son-in-law went to her and said, I wonder if you can help me. I've lost 7 pieces of silver from my room. I understand you know a lady in Fisherton who might be able to help. Anne Stiles says, yes, I'll do what I can. So she walked back to the Fisherton area, and this time she was followed by a black dog, followed her all the way to Fisherton, and when she got to Anne Bodnam's house, the dog overtook her, jumped up against the door, opened the door, and manifested into Anne Bodnam. So Anne Stiles said, manifested herself into Anne Bodnam. She said, you've got to help me. There's now silver gone missing from the house. Can you do something to help me? Anne Bodnam said it would cost you 6 shillings for my help. She was paid, and then Anne Bodnam chucked some powder into the fire, and there was a horrible smell, and there was an awful wind, which, according to the court case, almost blew the house down. And then Anne Bodnam got an old book out and put a glass upside down and said to Anne Stiles, look into the glass and you'll be able to see what happened in the house. She looked into the glass, saw what was happening, went back to her master and said, Anne Bodnam from Fisherton is a witch. To cut a long story short, she was taken to the court in Salisbury and she was found guilty. The only witness against her was Anne Stiles, the housekeeper from the Cathedral Close. With this, she was sentenced to be hanged in the area I told you about, the junction of Devizes and Milton Road, sentenced to be hung by the neck until dead. What I like about Anne Bodnam was when she was taken from the jail at the bottom end of Fisherton Street, she managed to have a drink in every single pub the whole length of Fisherton Street. What a woman. There's a woman after my own heart. She's going to die happy, okay. And she didn't finish there because she gets on the scaffold and the hangman said, do you repent, Anne Bodnam? To which she replied, a pox on thee! And jumped off of her own accord and was hanged. Yeah. And that was the end of it. Now, this Anne Bodnam, supposedly she was 80 years old. An 80-year-old woman having a drink in a whole... I mean, there are a lot more pubs and Christians sitting around now. Fair play to her. There is a postscript to this story. Anne Bodnam may well have been a witch because at the same time as she was in Fisherton, there was a chap called Dr. Lamb, who was a nasty piece of work big time. He was a rapist, and it was said he was able to summon spirits. And from all the accounts, Anne Bodnam was a disciple of Dr. Lamb. Well, the citizens of Salisbury hated this Dr. Lamb so much that Lamb scarpered up to London. And he became quite famous in London. He got in with royalty, which made him extremely powerful. It is said royalty liked him because he was able to procure young girls for royalty. Not much changes, does it really? Nothing changes. The people of London hated this man, absolutely hated him with a vengeance. He eventually ended up going to court for the rape of a very young girl and for summoning spirits. Amazingly, he was actually found not guilty for this. The people of London were incensed, absolutely horrified, and vengeance. They were out for vengeance. They were out to get Dr. Lamb. By this time, Dr. Lamb realised that he was hated, and he hired a series of bodyguards to look after him. However, on this particular night, Dr. Lamb went to the local tavern with his bodyguards, but an unruly mob watched him. They knew where he was, and they waited outside for him to come out, and when he did, they beat the bodyguards